Welcome back to the MMA Plug, presented to you by DenverSportsBetting.com on 98.1 FM, Mile High Sports Radio. I'm your host, Jordan Kurtz, sitting here alongside the LFA 2020 Male Fighter of the Year, Josh Fremd. We got Danny Bailey there behind the glass, holding it down for us. We're about to get into 3 rounds, one of my favorite segments of the show each and every single week. This segment is brought to you by Mad Kingdom Insane Supply Company. For all of your latest and greatest in fightwear, fashion, and apparel, make sure you go to themadkingdom.com.
Round 1. Should the UFC have a Legends League of 35 and up fighters?
You know, Jordan, I thought about this, and I don't think it's necessarily we need to segregate them and make it an official Legends League. I think that would be cool also if they went that route, but I think in terms of this, I just want to see better matchmaking, because you want to see the fight that we saw this weekend with Lawler and Diaz. Both guys obviously past their prime. Both guys on the tail end of their career, but it was a good fight. It was a good fight, and it was a competitive fight for a while. I just don't want to see legends fall the way that we've seen lately, taking horrible knockouts, losses, and I don't want to see that anymore. I think it's a good idea.
I agree with the premise of what you're saying there of not wanting to see our legends just continue to fall. Daniel Cormier even was one who was famous of speaking about it before his last fight with Stipe, and that, you know, we always see our heroes, their last image is them, you know, basically looking up at the lights on the canvas.
Yeah.
And that happens for so many of the greats out there. But I do also believe that there is value for those veterans who can still fight at a quality level. You know, I think that there has to be something that weighs in just from as far as the UFC goes. Maybe there's other promotions that can continue to let these guys fight later and later on.
Yeah.
But if they're still able to fight to a qualitative standard, then I have no problem with it. I want to see those fights. You know,
yeah.
I want to see those guys. Like, I mean, we saw rejuvenated Robbie Lawler the other night. You know, we see a guy like Matt Brown at 40 who is still competing at a high level, who is still fighting very strong. So as long as they are still physically able to look the part, and it doesn't look like something where, you know, it's a cringe factor in watching.
Yeah,
I'm with it.
And obviously not in a literal term, but in an MMA terms. You don't want to see a young guy beat up a grandpa in MMA time effect. You know, it's just you want to see good quality fights.
And at certain times, I do understand that, hey, you got to have a change into the guard, and there, you know, at some points you do have to test a young guy to see is he really at that level, and that's where some of those gatekeeper roles come in. But sometimes it could be a little bit more carefully chosen. I agree.
Yeah.
Retired 2-division champion Henry Cejudo has expressed interest in returning to the octagon for a fight against current featherweight champ Alexander Volkanovski. With Max Holloway booked, is this the fight to make?
Yes. 100%. Why, if you were the UFC and if Max is going to be going on and fighting Yair, obviously Max and Volk's timelines are not aligned right now. This should be the fight that you make. You have one of the greatest combat sports athletes of all time in the Olympic gold medalist, as well as 2-division champion in the UFC, who also defended his belt, each of his belts.
Each of them.
That's a guy who is one of your, from a promotional standpoint, from a meritocratic standpoint, he's achieved so many things by those 4 fights alone that he had.
Yeah.
If he wants to go up and come back and say, like, hey, I think that Volk is a fight that I'm in for it. I think that Henry's going to do everything that he can to sell the fight. We already know whether it's cringe or not.
Yeah.
Henry is going to sell the fight. He's going to put eyes on the product. And I think that it's a matchup that Henry could win.
I think it is a matchup that he could win, but Jordan, I'm going to go against the grain here with you. I don't want to see him fight anymore. He took a leave from after his Olympic win in wrestling, and he retired at a young age in terms of wrestling. He comes into the UFC, has a phenomenal career, wins both titles, defends both of them, and then steps away. You're out on top. Why come back and risk that?
To become potentially the greatest champion on paper that the UFC's ever had. They've never had 3 division champions.
That is the risk worth taking, and I think being Cejudo, the competitor that he is, I also believe he wins. I believe too, but just as a fan
Just
standpoint.
remember, too, that the only reason why he stepped away was because he felt like he wasn't being fairly compensated.
Yeah.
So it's not like he retired because he was past his prime or he was over the hill or anything to that effect.
Yeah.
He stepped away for a compensation stand.
Round 3, Jon Jones arrested again last weekend after getting inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. How does this impact his career going forward?
John, I'm a huge fan. I've been a big fan since I was a kid. And every time that I have every excuse in the book when my friends text me, I don't have anything to fall back on now. There is no excuse for anything that you've done. I'm competitor-wise, athlete-wise, the greatest of all time. Human-wise, I just want the guy to battle whatever he's battling, get help, do whatever you need because you're a legend and there's so many people looking up to you.
Yes, well said. John's got demons, and I've got a real soft spot on that side of things. It's a sad thing that he can't get out of his own way. The night where he's inducted into the Hall of Fame, this is what happens.
That's going to cover it.
It's arguably the worst case of all of them throughout his entire history of run-ins with the law. So, just like that, folks, we are out of time. Hit us up on social media. Let us know what you think of the show. You can follow me on Instagram at Comments from the Peanut Gallery. Follow Josh at Josh Fremd MMA. Check out my man in the main event for LFA on October 22nd. We want to give a special thank you to our producer, Danny Bailey, behind the glass. We want to say thank you to executive producer Anilo Piro, CEO of DenverSportsBetting.com, Ryan Garcia, our sponsors in the Grand Z Sports Casino, DenverSportsBetting.com, MyFitFoods, Comments from the Peanut Gallery, and the Mad Kingdom. I am Jordan Kurtz, sitting here alongside Josh Fremd. This is the MMA Plug presented to you by DenverSportsBetting.com on 98.1 FM, Mile High Sports Radio.
Yeah, little thick bitch, fine little mamacita. Always coolin' by the pool, drinking margaritas. Yeah, it's pippin' over here and we ain't trippin' over pesos. I know it's good now, but luego